What is going on, everybody? My name's Early here. It's been a while since I've made any video of my W204, but this is a 150,000 mile update. As you can see, we already have some damage at the front of the car. I'm gonna talk about that later on, but essentially I have reached about 150,000 miles. Well, 149 right now, but we're about to cross the threshold probably in a couple of days. Long story short, this car has been incredibly reliable, and surprisingly probably the most reliable German car you'll ever get. So we're gonna go ahead and check out the mileage right now while we're here. So you can see it is about 149,913 miles. So the front of this car, you could definitely see some noticeable damage on the paint as well as the hazy headlights, which we will be upgrading actually. So all those boxes in the back right there, those are actually new pair of headlights that are blacked on the inside, so it's kind of like that cool smoke look to it, which is really nice. I tried buffing this specific side out, but it looks like the haze is actually on the inside, which is really unfortunate. So we definitely, replacing these headlights didn't really cost me a lot. I believe it was like about 260 bucks for an aftermarket one. So it's not a big deal. Good thing that these parts aren't really that expensive. Well, some of them are, but it just depends on where you look at it. If you guys didn't remember, this fog lights I replaced about 2 years ago. And they're still working. However, there are some water intrusion, as you can see right there. So I am replacing that as well. So this whole housing on the inside. And of course, I'm also replacing the grill right here. Now the problem with this grill is that in order to replace that lower grill, I had to take off that whole bumper, which just doesn't make sense. So I waited until I got all the parts, which I did. So I got new headlights, and then I got this grill. Actually almost a year ago. I just haven't put it in yet, but I also got new housings for the fog lights. So basically a freshen up look at 150,000 miles, which is really what I'm looking forward to. Now let's go ahead and pop the hood right here. Engine wise, the past 2 or 3 years, this has really never been an issue. I still clean it regularly, as you can see, so it's not too dirty. Just slightly dusty, but it's not to the point where it's really dirty. How can I forget about my strut bar right here, which really is a noticeable upgrade. Now these strut bars really make a difference when it comes to the handling department on this car. I think it really wakes it up, especially with the sport suspension that this C350 comes with. Now the only issue with this is that this is supposed to be flat, not slanted. So as you can see, I'm not really able to access my air filter box because this is slanted. And so this is a manufacturer error, pretty easy to fix. All I have to do is just basically unscrew these two bolts, take the strut bar out, and flip these anchor points. So that way it's gonna be flat, not slanted like what it is right now. But Megan Racing did a good job. Now engine wise, of course, this is the good old M272 motor. So really reliable, really robust. There's really not that much you can do with them, but there's also not a lot of things that can go bad with them. Number one probably would be the motor mounts as well as the intake manifold, which is going bad on mine, but it's not to the point where it's causing an check engine light. So I'm not really too worried about that at the moment. But as you guys remembered, I replaced the cam magnets right here, air filter as usual, as well as the as well as the plugs in the back, which you can't really see, but link will be down in the description. I replaced those, and pretty much that's it. Oh, also I forgot, thermostat got replaced, serpentine belt and pulleys and tensioners as usual. Now the only thing I have upcoming to do, well, replacement wise, would be the air filter housing or oil filter housing. So with the oil filter housing, it's very common to leak, and mine is definitely going to that point, especially at 150,000 miles, but it's not enough that is really significant leakage wise, so it's just a little bit of a seepage. But I'm gonna do that anyway because it's warming up and I have time to really just get on with the maintenance with this car. But so far everything is great. The cam magnets that I replaced still works fine. And also I just realized that you were also supposed to replace these wires together with the cam plugs, but I guess I just got it on time where no oil got into the wiring harness, which is great. So less money I spent on that one. So far, even at 150,000 miles, as you can see, it's a very clean engine. Well, I try my best to. Now the only noticeable thing that I realized I totally remember now was that I had to top off the coolant, and that was the first time I ever had to top off the coolant, aside from me replacing the thermostat. And that was after a 3,000-mile road trip from Maryland to Houston, Texas, and Houston, Texas, and back. So that was quite a bit of a road trip. So ever since then, that was about back in September. So I never really had to top off any coolant after that. And obviously the brakes as well. That's soon to be due because I did do the brake fluid flush, I think in 23. So coming up to 2 years now. So I definitely need to do that. And yes, I also forgot I did replace the spark plugs and the coil packs. And when it comes to these engines, it's really a 50-50 shot. Now, if you own this for a long time like I did and have done a lot of maintenance, you know these things will run forever and ever. I mean, you've seen these go over 300,000 miles with ease. So, I mean, you know, I'm very comfortable, very confident that this car will really go to 200,000 with minor issues. Now, these cars are not going to be perfect because they are over a decade old by now. But regardless, I am still very proud that this is a very reliable engine. And all those balance shaft issues that people always like to overextend the concerns, not really an issue. I mean, I've driven this 3,000 miles twice on a road trip. I've driven this, I guess, about like 20 states by now. So 70,000 miles in 3 years. Taking a look at the car from this angle, as you can see, still a very good looking car. Excuse me for how dirty my rims are, but I also got a new set of tires. So if you guys didn't remember, I had Michelin Pilot Sports all season tires on this, and that lasted about 40,000 miles, 45,000 miles. And so it wasn't really a set of tires that would be guaranteed to last, hence why we kind of downgraded to these Continental Extreme Sports or whatever these are, because these I heard would last just a bit longer than those with similar performance. But honestly, the Michelin Pilot Sport all seasons are far more superior when it comes to handling department. I mean, it's immediately noticeable, at least in my experience, that Continental Extreme Contact just don't cut it compared to the all seasons. You know, it is what it is, and they're about $200 cheaper. There's really not a lot of damage to the body, to the exterior, aside from this one right here. So the story goes, me and my friends were driving from Philly back to Maryland, and next thing you know, there's a big little metal piece that really pretty much obliterated this door. So I actually had to replace this whole door and found a replacement on Facebook Marketplace. And luckily enough, black isn't really a hard color to match. All right, so now we're taking a look at the interior. And this is probably where I did a lot of self DIY repairs and whatnot. So we'll get into that. But first things first, if you guys didn't remember, couple of years ago, all these switch buttons right here are completely worn out. I replaced these unlock and lock buttons as well as this window switch right here. Luckily enough, the door replacement had a unworn switch, which really saved me money on there, but I did replace that, which is great. I got LED lights for this one right here, not some tacky light up things on the bottom where it shows the Mercedes logo. I just got your regular LED bulb. For 150,000 miles, I am genuinely surprised by how well it has held up. As you can see, the seats are in tremendous shape. I'd say they're close to brand new as they're ever going to be. And the only really noticeable damage to this interior is the driver's side, which we'll get into in a bit. But this side of the interior, there's little to no damage at all. The only thing noticeable would be this right here, but that's because of the Californian sun beaming on this for, well, at least a decade. This is not my cause, but this is from sun damage in California, which this car came from, which is actually really good because there's not a lot of rust on this car, even at 150,000 miles. As you can see, floor mat still is in good shape. Everything functions like normal. The kick plate right here is still in good shape. All right, so here is where we get to the fun part. I recently upgraded to this little CarPlay thing. This is a 10.5 inch or 10.2 inch display, and I replaced this center air vent right here because this one right here wasn't working properly. I fixed that. The only noticeable worn part of the center console are the buttons right here where my phone used to rest with the phone holder, and over time it just keeps rubbing. Can't avoid that. This is where you're gonna see the most wear and tear interior wise, starting with the driver's seat. As you can see, it all started with this cut right here, and eventually over time, especially my ride to Texas, which was a 3,000-mile drive total, I guess I keep resting my legs on this part of the seat, started to crack. I am actively looking for a replacement. That's the situation so far with the seat. As you can see, there's a lot of scratches on this door handle right here, but I did replace this buttons as well as this whole window switch right here. So this is practically brand new. As you can see, everything still looks good. We got a new pedal, so I did replace that pedal because it was acting up. Every time I would floor it, it would give me an ESP limp mode warning. So I did replace that yesterday, actually. As you can see, I also replaced this center console trim right here for about 20 bucks. Very cheap, and so this is practically brand new. The only thing that's broken on this is this part right here, which I have a replacement. I got this replacement at the junkyard right here, but it looks like a painful process to open, so I haven't dealt with that. I just replaced this old one right here. As you can see, basically broken, flaking off with the buttons. Oh yeah, another thing, my horn started, basically the low pitch stopped working, so I got these replacements off of Facebook Marketplace, which I will be installing with the new headlights tomorrow. Now, today as well, I replaced my daylight sensor right about there, and this is my second daylight sensor, which is kind of hilarious, but yeah, it's not working, wasn't working properly, and so I had to replace it from the junkyard. Not a big deal, but again, it's one of those things that just continually breaks. This part, very clean. As you can see, everything still works, and despite having 150,000 miles, this thing still shifts like butter. As you can see, it's not really something that I would be worried about breaking. This is the head unit I was talking about earlier. I can use my little knob right here to just work around CarPlay. You go to settings, you can work around right here, and if you want to go to the actual home screen, you got that option. No warning lights to be found on this car. Well, we do have low gas, but as you can see, no warning lights, nothing, nada. Okay, back seat. Not a lot of things to talk about here aside from when I was doing my road trips. I fit properly in this car. Can't really show you guys, but this is my new headlights right here. I'm not gonna reveal it until the next video, but I got new headlights. I also have new fog lights, new tail lights coming soon, which has not arrived yet. This is really something I've been wanting to do for a while and just haven't had the chance to do it. From the back right here, there's really nothing to talk about aside from I always clean this car once a week. This car is mostly clean except today because it was raining. We do have a staggered setup for the tires, which came from the factory, so 225s on the front, 245s on the rear, same Continental Extreme contact tires. I did replace this little center cap right here because the stock ones were flaking off, and I think it gives a little bit of a two-tone style when it comes to the rims, which is pretty good. I haven't really done anything with the exhaust aside from that X pipe I did almost 3 years ago, and we got the spoiler. Everybody asks, how do you get this spoiler? Well, it came from the factory. I never really had to do anything with that. Overall, after 3 years, 70,000 miles, I really can't say anything more than this car is perfect. One more thing I forgot. I did upgrade the headlights to full LEDs, even the high beam. This is the bulb I was talking about that I accidentally yanked out the wiring harness, which is kind of funny because these eyebrows really, the bulbs inside here die a lot, which is stupid. Can't wait for that replacement to come in and just give this car a whole fresh new look and repair the little trims that are just going bad, like the lower grille.